Every great champion knows that success, overcoming, and winning in life is no accident. Creating individual success is like having a recipe for a great meal. It only works if you know how to use the ingredients. As a best-selling author, entrepreneur, business coach, strategist, and champion, the Lewis Howard Live Show provides you the insider's view on winning. All we do is win, 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 helping you become the best version of yourself. Hey, welcome. This is Lewis Howard, and you have joined us for another edition of Lewis Howard Live, broadcasting you live from Seattle Mob Studios. Shout out to the Mob crew for making us sharp and tight every show. We appreciate that. Also, acknowledging we are celebrating 600 episodes. Can you believe that? 600 episodes, content of the Lewis Howard Live programs. And I don't know about you, but that's a lot. Very few people in the podcast world can even say they have 600 episodes of product and content and information out there. So we appreciate every single listener. We've had just short of 100,000 downloads of this particular show. So we really appreciate you. And all across the globe, we're hitting 7 countries. And our latest, I think we're in Japan, Italy, the Philippines. I keep forgetting all the lists, but nevertheless, we're always just, glad to connect with you. And as I always say, sharing is caring. If it doesn't benefit you, I'm sure we got 8 billion people on the planet. Somebody can benefit from a thought, a word, or an idea that help you become the best version of yourself. Today, take a little bit of a turn because I appreciate the life of a farmer, soldier, and athlete. And the reason is because they are a model of people who take on an assignment and have to work through that assignment to become the best version of themselves, either individually or collectively. And so it's the same with us. We either work individually or we're working collectively with a group or team or company or organization, however your life structure dictates. Even with a family, that's a structure, and you're working in cooperation of that. The minute you bring a child in this world, you are no longer operating on your own. I got friends that are having new babies, and they're finding out that their life has to be changed because they're getting up, changing the baby, getting up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whenever the kid calls. It's the same way if you get a new puppy. It's going to change your structure and change how you are going about your course. But I was looking in American history, which I often do, just to understand how we get to where we are. To some people, it doesn't matter. A day is a day. It doesn't matter what happened. They call it old school, yesterday, ancient history. But ancient history leads to current history. If you didn't have ancient history, you wouldn't have current history, right? If you didn't have a mom or dad or grandpa, somebody that birthed mom, that birthed you, you would not be here. So you are not on an island. I know you want to feel like that, but we're really all part of a greater membership and a greater group. So I like to study the farmer for the day. And the interesting thing about America's economy, it was really rooted in what was called the agrarian culture, agriculture. Farmers were the bread and butter of our nation from probably the 1800s, mid 1800s to the 1900s, maybe even further back than that. But the farmer really dictated the health of the nation because they grew the food, they took the food to market, and families benefited from that. Families that were not farmers benefited from the work of the farmer. And, if you weren't a farmer, especially in the Midwest, it was difficult because you have harsh winters and inclement weather conditions, hard land, and different things like that. So it was hard. If you go back and you look at some of the stories of how families had to survive, it was super difficult. I mean, we really know in our modern times about the Depression and how that really affected families. But a lot of that was because their way of living was affected when you couldn't grow the crops. So today we got technology. Today technology will be the modern farmer, right? You sow a platform, you sow a piece of software, and it turns into a big field of opportunities, right? So if you take a Facebook, a Instagram, those were all like seeds sown into something, an idea, and all of a sudden, boom, you got billions of people on social media. So while you are enjoying what you are enjoying, whether it's your ability to run your business online, or the business to check on your family or your friends or your business at the stroke or swipe of a device, a lot of it had to do with somebody was a farmer. I was studying the life of George Washington Carver. If you guys don't know who he is, but George Washington Carver was an American scientist and inventor. And Carver was born as a slave with little known education in the mid 1854. And boy, talk about a struggle. Don't need to go into all of that or what's going on during the time of slavery in America and all of that. But that's the time he grew up. And yet this humble man, through all of the obstacles, places he couldn't go because of the color of his skin, education he couldn't get because he was not permitted to sit with the other children that were of different persuasion, all those different things that the man had to go through. And yet this one man took something like a peanut, right? Kids love peanut butter, right? Everybody, I like peanut butter. Reese's peanut butter cups, right? But this one man took a peanut and found over 300 documented uses for the peanut. A lot of women's makeup foundation was a peanut. I know you probably don't shout me down on that, but I'm just saying it's what it is. History says. Children's crayons, tires, different uses, 300 uses out of one little peanut that started as a seed that was sown in the ground. This guy takes the peanut and figures out all of these different uses. Carver built a relationship with Henry Ford. You guys out there driving your Fords, right? Henry Ford loved George Washington Carver. And the reason is because George Washington Carver found a way to make rubber, the tires that we roll on our whips, out of a milkweed plant. And as a result, he was able to help Ford save some cost in terms of growing tires, rubber trees. That's what they call them. And they would literally make tires out of that particular product. That's got to be amazing. I don't care who you are. That's an amazing invention of a product. And again, coming from somebody that didn't have a Harvard education, didn't go to Yale, didn't go to Brown, didn't go to USC, didn't go to all the popular places, wasn't from a blue blood family, rich, wealthy, or royalty, but a slave. So if he can do it, if he can find a use for a thought, idea, or seed, I'm telling you, I believe that you can too. In real life, we're all farmers. We're still farmers, whether that is of technology, whether that is of manufacturing, whether that is of service, whatever it is, you're a farmer. Why? Because everything starts with a seed, a thought, or an idea, and it has to be cultivated into some kind of use for your life. So today, an example of technology farmers would be Amazon, right? Taking an idea of how to create a fulfillment center from you just sitting on your laptop or your device and ordering something that comes to your door. Some people order a little too much, right? Amazon Prime has got you hooked. It's like your drug. You can't stay off of it. But it was a idea created by Jeff Bezos and a team that started as a thought, simple thought. If you go back and look at the history of Amazon, Amazon wasn't what it was today. Amazon was started in a garage. That's how he started. And it was a company that did not make money for years. Elon Musk, Twitter, GE, Walmart. Even if you got 1 million followers on IG, that is farming. That really is the definition of farming, starting with something small and growing it into something great. And the great thing about that, a farmer could share his food with the world, right? If he grew wheat, he could make that bread and it could feed communities. Corn, apples, whatever it is, all the things that we use as we talk about this show, it's ingredients for life, ingredients for the soul. The farmer did that. He set that as a foundation for how you would eat, how you would enjoy your Thanksgiving or your Christmases or your daily meals. We take for granted so much of what we just have. We just think it was always there. Bread was always there. Gas was always there. And never taking the time to figure out how did a tire come to be. I know some people don't care. As long as the car gets and drives, you don't care where it came from or how it get it. And I think that's part of the problem. Because if you think that way about the things that you use, what do you think about yourself? Right? What's in you that you just take for granted that you don't even think about? Right? You get up and breathe and you don't even think about it. Okay? You get up and able to function and you don't think about it. Now think about what we just came out of. We just came out of an historic pandemic that over 300,000 people were lost, didn't come through. Okay, so it would be virtually, I think, irresponsible to get up and still think that you deserve life even after what we've come through. And you made it through. Maybe you had to wear a mask. Maybe you had to take the vaccination. You had to do a lot of things. But here, the bottom line is, if you're listening to me right now, you got through the pandemic. 300,000 people did not make that through. So never take life for granted, because there is a beginning, a middle, and of course, there is an end. So I just want to give you some insights to think like the farmer as it relates to your life, your family, and what you want to do, and some of the things that you have. We all have goals. We all have a job. We all got an assignment, a cause, or whatever you do. Whether you're a volunteer or you're a CEO of a company, you got an assignment, you got a job. It pays different. The responsibilities are different, but you still have a job and you've got different challenges. So we're going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I'm going to get into a few points that I think that if you start to maybe put some thought into it, maybe you can get an idea out of how to take something small in your life and grow what you know into something that could be impactful. This is Lewis Howard Live. We're going to take a quick break. Shout out to our sponsors. We'll be right back.
The Millionaire Club charity is one of Seattle's oldest existing charities. In addition to job placement and employment services, the Millionaire Club provides job training and licensing to help workers become qualified and job ready, from nutritious meals and sack lunches to housing assistance to stabilize their lives. Despite its name, the donors to the Millionaire Club are ordinary citizens with a desire and passion to help fellow citizens overcome the barriers of employment and housing. For more information, call 206-728-JOBS. or go to millionaireclub.org.
Hey, this is Lewis Howard. You joined Lewis Howard Live. You missed the first segment. You can get it on the download. But we're talking about this principle, this life of a farmer in today's culture as it relates. You go, what does a farmer have to do? I've never even been to the country. Farmer has a lot to do with what you're doing. Even today, the food that you're eating has to come from a farm someplace. You can argue about the GMO and things that are in it, but the bottom line is the food still comes. And I love the new concept of farm to table, where people want to cut out the middle process of doing it, but it still has to come from someplace. It still has a beginning. And so one of the things I just want to share with, and just I think in terms of thinking about that in the context of a job, a dream, an idea, a business, whatever you are, entrepreneur, worker, whatever it is, you have to think about it. If I'm a janitor, I have to think about the tools that I need in order to do the job that I've got to do. There's a point in my life I was a janitor. I knew I had to have buckets and mops and different things in order to produce the end result, which was a clean floor. So everything has a start. Don't ignore that. I know it's easy to look at somebody on Instagram or follow the Kardashians or whoever, and you see their great success. And as I talk about, you see their private jets and you see everything that they enjoy. And of course you want that. Who wouldn't, right? But they started someplace. Go listen to Grant Cardone's story while you're watching his private jets. Go listen to his story, because at one point he was sleeping in his car. There's a guy named Paul DeJour, and you probably didn't drink some of his product. It's called tequila, right? And Paul DeJour was sleeping in his car outside Echo Park in Los Angeles, right? Farmer starting someplace, not the best place to start. And of course, he sells that tequila company for short of $1 billion. Yeah, take a shot to that. Okay. So technology, right? Restaurants, different things where people have to start with, I call it good ground. You got to start. Every farmer knows that in order to grow something, you got to start with good ground. And so the good ground may be your idea. It may be your family. It may be the company you're working with. It may be your ability to draw something, maybe just a blank sheet of paper, but you got to start with good ground. Now, as opposed to bad ground, right? You just can't sow an idea into anything and expect for it to produce $1 million. It's just not going to work, right? A bad idea is still a bad idea. Bad ground is still a bad ground. There are people, places, and things where you don't invest in. You just don't invest your time, your money, your resources, because you're not going to get the return out of it. So a farmer knows that in order to have a good, healthy crop, a good, healthy harvest, he starts with good ground. And in our modern day, in the technology world, the ground is your mind, right? Your mind is the ground. How healthy is your mind? Now, we know that there is a lot of dysfunction, again, as a result of some of the things we've been through. We know that antidepressant drugs are at all-time high. We know alcohol use, drug use. We know that there's some challenge. We know homelessness. We know the different challenges that are going on. But at the end of the day, if you're going to grow something, it's going to start with what's between your mind. What is the condition of your mind? Is it filled with fear, doubt, problems, trauma, drama? Then it's going to make it hard for anything to come out of that positive. I get to work with people every day, and I listen to them, and I'm talking to them, and you can just hear. You can hear that some of them live in the past. They live in what happened to them as a kid, or they're living into something that they went through as an adult, and they can't get over that. So no matter what they put in, it's really going to be dysfunctional, if you will. I think that's where dysfunction comes, where you're trying to put a functional thought into a dysfunctional mind. You ain't get a dysfunctional result. I didn't make it up. Just saying. Go look it up. Go Google it. Okay. So you have to watch what you're saying, kind of what the condition of your mind. I grew up with people with sayings like this, just another day, just another dollar. Well, how about another day, another million? I think I want to go for that. But, that's what they were saying. Is so, you know what? That's what they're putting in their mind is all I make is $1. All I make is $1. That's what I get. Well, that's what you're going to get because that's what you are sowing into your field and into your mind. 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. I used to hear that a lot growing up as a kid. Right? What does that mean? Well, I took 3 steps forward and I took 2 steps back. Now I'm just 1 step ahead. But again, these are thoughts that we run around and saying. I caught myself recently because I used to work into news and broadcasting. And so every day we would produce a newscast for 25 minutes. And it was a lot of pressure doing that 25 minutes because we were live on the air. You couldn't make mistakes. You had to make sure that the anchors got their script and everything had to go perfectly for that 25 minutes. And so I got used to saying to people, and I thought it was very cool, I work well under pressure, right? I work well under pressure. But then I found later in life when pressure would come, I would be frustrated by that. Like, why am I under pressure? I don't want to be under pressure. But it's because I had sown that thought that I work well under pressure. So guess what life gave me? Pressure, okay? So you have to kind of think about, where did I get that saying from? Right? Where did I get that saying, Friday the 13th, don't cross in front of a black cat, don't walk on the ladder, right? Just little things that we get and we think, it doesn't matter. But that's your ground. That is your soil. That's your mind that you are putting a thought, idea, or concept into, and then you wonder, why am I not getting the results? Why am I on my 5th marriage? Right? Why do I keep getting fired from job after job? Well, you probably need to look at something that went into your mind either by you or, more importantly, by somebody else. I think the tragedy is the influence sometimes that kids get put upon them by adults that have dysfunction, because the adult says something out of dysfunction to the kid. Well, you ain't gonna never be anything because your daddy wasn't anything and your mom wasn't anything, so you're not gonna be anything. Well, what do you think that kid's gonna go think? You don't just throw those thoughts away. I can tell you, as a child that grew up around a lot of negative thinking, those thoughts do not just like go away, like, oh, that's just mom, she don't know what she's talking about. No, you hear that, and then you keep hearing that, and all of a sudden you're bringing that into a job. You're bringing that into a relationship. You're bringing that into an opportunity. So I'm not saying that's a cure-all for everything, but I do know that it does begin with having a good mind that either will produce positive results or frustration, and worst case, stagnation. What's stagnation? Stagnation simply is if you are in the same place that you were 10 years ago and you haven't moved, you're stagnant. If you wearing the same hairdo, listen to the same music, and driving the same car, you are stagnant. Okay, you have not moved on. I work with people that, live in our affordable housing buildings in an organization that I work with. And some of these people have lived in the building for 20 years and they don't plan on leaving, right? They're stagnant. They're not growing. I think as human beings, we're designed to grow. We're like that seed. We're designed to grow and flourish and bring new things and do great things. I'm glad that people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and others overcame their obstacles to go on and still sow seeds to do great things. Because if you listen to some of them, they had some real challenges growing up, right? You listen to Steve Jobs' story. They had real challenges going on, but they still built amazing things that we get to enjoy. You have the same thing in you. So you've got to think about that. So if you just joined us today, we're talking about you grow what you know. Right? The seed of your mind can produce something that can make your life and, more importantly, others around you. All right. So point number 2 is people talk about positive mental mindset. There's a lot of books out there on positive mental mindset. And I'm a firm believer in a positive mindset, right? Because that's one of the steps to having a good, healthy mind. If I'm positive, then I can have positive outcome. But that's not enough. Right? Because you can be positively wrong, right? You can be positively dysfunction, right? And you're positive, but I'm positive that you're wrong. So positivity is good. It's a good start. I'd rather deal with somebody positive than somebody that's got a negative mindset who under the guise of, well, I'm just keeping it real. The glass is always half empty to me. Okay, well, I might debate you on that, right? Because if it's enough water to quench my thirst, I'm happy. I'm positive about that. So just think about that when you buy those terms and sayings. Does that really impact you, right? But positive is not going to be enough. You're going to have to put some work in. I know that's a dirty word for some people, but you got to invest labor, right? I developed a saying years ago. I said time times rate equal distance, okay? TRD. What does that mean? That means that the time I put in something, the rate at which I invested into it will equal the distance that I cover. If you study running is based on that principle, time, right? How fast can you run? What is the rate of speed that you can go? And then what is the distance that you can cover? Many talk about lately, it's kind of the resurgence of Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile and how he was able to do that in that period of time. And prior to that, so many people had tried to do it. But the way that Roger Bannister did it was he put the time and he just worked up his rate to eventually hit the distance. So whatever you're doing, if you invest the TRD method into it, you'll get more ground than somebody that is just being stagnant. But you got to put the work in. A farmer knows you got to labor. A farmer can't just walk out the field and say, grow apples, grow grapes. I'll see you next year. It's not going to work like that, because when they come back, they're going to still see the same field in the condition that they left it in. I know so many people want to write books, right? I've written 3 books, and then people go, how did you write books? I put the time in it, right? I put the work into the book. And I'm not the best writer, but I put the time into it. And so now I have the books. But before I didn't have the books, I just had the thought that I wanted to do the books. So you have to get off, as my old mentor say, you're rusty dusty, and get into some sort of plan that you're going to put into action, right? Starting with the sowing in the right mind, starting with putting the kind of labor into what you're doing. And it does require work. You got to have a daily work plan, right? So what's your daily work plan? What do you do? How do your day start and how do your day end? I hear some people, I can't do nothing until I have my first cup of coffee. Well, I don't know. How long does that take? Okay. And then what do we do after that? Okay. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Okay. These are funny, but these are stuff that we hear, and people frame their life. Don't talk to me today. I got up on the wrong side of the bed. Okay, well, I got $1 million opportunity for you today. So you mean I can't talk to you today because you got up on the wrong side of the bed? Really? Okay. So it's things like that to become part of your mindset, right? Because we're also magnets. We attract opportunities that come to us, and a lot of that has to do with your sort of thinking. Right. So again, it's about productivity. The farmer understands that in order to grow whatever he's growing, whether that's wheat or she's growing, I gotta put the labor into it. Farmers used to have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I used to always wonder, why do they get up that early if you got a whole day? But as I was studying, I found out they had to get up before the sun came up. And the reason why they had to get up before the sun came up is because at the heat of the day, they couldn't work anymore. So whenever the heat of the day was for their area, they were done. So if the heat of the day was noon, 1, 2, or 3 o'clock, they were done. So they knew in order to get a good 8 hours in, most of them had to get up at 4 o'clock so they would be ready to go and farm. I hear people all the time talking, I'm beating the sun up. Well, the sun doesn't care if you beat it up. It doesn't care. It's still the sun. Why are you beating the sun, right? Does that mean you're going to be more successful than the person who doesn't beat the sun up? Well, it depends on when that person has to work. So you have to understand, how do I work? Right? Every day I'm hustling. Well, what does that mean? I mean, how are you hustling? Right? Are you spending the right time working into what you want to grow at the end of whatever it is, your business plan or your idea or whatever it is? Right? They couldn't sleep past the sunrise. So if a farmer went out and partied and had a hangover and couldn't get up to noon, his day was done. Okay, because you can't go out and work in the heat of the sun. It's not going to be that productive. So they had to sleep when it was appropriate to sleep and rest, and then be ready to get up and work their land. You got to be ready. And that's different for everybody. I am not an early person. I don't get up at 4 or 5 o'clock more. I know friends that do. Great. I have a set time, 7:30. That's when I get up. But I can do more in my 8-9 hours than most people that didn't got up at 4 o'clock, because I can keep going till 6 or 7 o'clock. My day does not end at 5 o'clock. It ends when I'm done with my last task for the day. So again, that's one of the beauties of technology, is that you can work 24/7 if you want to. I get calls from around the world at 1 o'clock because it's 8 o'clock there. So we are in 24 different time zones in the world. So people are at different times. Technology makes it so you can work when you want to. That's different from the farmer. The farmer didn't have those alternate time zones to work in. Did you know why we have Sunday? Things were closed on Sunday. I bet most people don't understand why Sundays where things were closed. It's because that was the time that the farmers needed that day to harvest a lot of their crops, and they couldn't be going to work or church or different things. So businesses would close to help the farmer be able to work their fields. Yep. So told you something you didn't know. I know. It took me a while. I was like, wow, that's why we have Sundays. That's why we have different daylight savings times that we all complain about. That's one of the reasons. It goes back to the agrarian culture that we haven't changed yet. We probably should get rid of daylight savings time. I will vote for that. All right. So next point is point number 4 is problems, right? Ask any farmer, ask any soldier, ask any athlete, you have problems. Right? You're just not going to go out to a perfect little ground and sow things in. Even people that grow like rose bushes and, things in their yard, they know they got problems. You got to go out and clean out the soil. You got to go buy new soil. You got to pot the thing. You got to fertilize it. You got to water it. You got to keep the weeds out. It is problems. It is not fun. So if you're going to grow a business, you're going to grow a family, you're going to grow a job, it is problems. You're going to be around somebody you don't like, smell funny, talk funny. It's going to be something that's going to try to get in your way that will become an obstacle or a barrier that keeps you from producing what you want. And you got a choice in that time. Either do I let the obstacle overtake me, or do I find a way to overcome the obstacle so I can continue? I grew up with this saying, they won't let us do this, that, or the other. And I was like, well, who is they? I need to meet these folks because they're pretty powerful, right? They're not letting you advance in your job. They're not letting you build the life you want. Who is they? Right? And I get it. I get the systemic problems in our culture. I grew up. I'm a man with brown skin. I understand that. But there's always a way around every single challenge, problem, or obstacle. But if you put in your mind, it's always somebody else that won't let you do something, then when you run up against a barrier or you run up against an obstacle, chances are you are not going to make it because you're going to put that thought out, well, they wouldn't let me do it anyway. I'm over. So decide how you're going to approach the barriers. They're not fun. Nobody wants a problem. Nobody gets up out of bed and go, hey, bring me the problems today. Nobody thinks that. But it is part of life. And if you're going to be a good farmer, whether that's technology, business, family, whatever, you will have to deal with some type of problems, some type of setbacks, some type of failures. When you talk to billionaires, people that have been successful, they'll tell you that much of their success came out of the problems that they had to overcome. They had to get money for their idea. They had to prove that somebody wanted their product or service or idea. And a lot of them started out very, very small. When you study the study of Walmart and how small that company started, just as selling goods and services, dry goods and things like that. And it grew into this mammoth company that it is today. It's a great story. You should really read it, especially if you shop there. Any place you shop, you ought to know the story of why you shop there. If you shop at Nordstrom's, know the story of John Nordstrom, 1901, where he started shining shoes and making shoes, selling shoes, and it grew into this behemoth retail boutique that it is today. So always know that it's just great to appreciate the story. You know, Starbucks, you drink Starbucks every day, and I guarantee you most people don't know the history of Starbucks, right? Don't know where the first store was. Where was the first Starbucks? It wasn't in your neighborhood. I promise you, it's not. So knowing that, understand that, makes me appreciate the coffee a little bit more, because I know that whether I'm in Seattle, Singapore, Utah, LA, wherever I am, if I order a blonde latte, it's going to be the same. It's not going to be different. And that comes into the work that the company puts in to make sure that you as a customer have the right kind of experience. Now, I'm going to talk about, you can get into politics and all that. That's not my gig. My gig is to talk to you about how to take yourself and become the best version of yourself. And I think that's part of the problem we get into is we get sidebarred into the politics, right? We get sidebarred into taking sides. We get sidebarred into our opinions. And while you're investing time into something you don't own. You don't own a Republican Party. You don't own a Democratic Party. You don't own these things that you put so much time fighting about when your land over here is dry. You got weeds, you got problems, and you over here pointing at somebody else's issue. Look, you got to really focus on building your own house and building the life you want for yourself. Then I'll go jump into the fight later. But then I know that my farm is producing what I want to. Again, if you join us, we're talking about growing what you know, right? Turning your life from a seed into whatever you want it to be, an enterprise, a kingdom, I don't know, whatever your goal is, a business, successful, being respected, being an influencer. It all starts with the same kind of thinking. All right, mastering time. Time, I talked about time, times rate equal distance, but you got to master time. Here's the deal on time. Time is either your master or time works for you. And unfortunately, for most people, time is their master. They don't have enough time. I know people that are driving and they can't stop scrolling. I see them at the light and the light's going to change and they're scrolling. Right? It's just scroll. And you ask them what they were doing that day. Oh, I was busy. Busy doing what? I was scrolling all day, right? That's what I did with my time. The thing is, we all get 24 hours a day. right? No matter who you are, you get 24 hours a day. And the question is, what am I doing with the 24 hours, right? I work 8, I sleep 8, but then I got another 8 that I could use for something more productive. So spending your time online is maybe not the best idea for using your time if it's not producing you anything. If you're just following what the latest argument is on Facebook or what the latest post is, I have a philosophy, and my philosophy is I don't have time to watch other people's lives, right? I don't have time to watch other people succeed. Now, I'll pay to go to a concert. I'll pay to go see Dave Chappelle because I like Dave Chappelle, right? But I pay to see him work. He's working at that point, right? I don't pay to follow people's drama and trauma because it doesn't benefit me, right? Knowing what Kim Kardashian ate yesterday did not fill up my bank account today, okay? Knowing what they're going to do 5 years from now probably is not going to impact my wealth. It's a conversation. It's something for me to do, but at the end of the day, if I'm managing my time, then you don't have time. I talk to a lot of multimillionaires. Most of them don't watch TV. They have TVs, but they don't watch it because they don't want to spend their time preoccupied with what other people are doing. They're using their time to go out and work their land, work their farm so they can produce what they want for their lives and their families. Next point is you got to be willing to fail. And this is a big one because failure is not something we want to talk about. We don't post about it. When's the last time you heard anybody post about their failure? I hear all these quotes on Instagram. You got to go get it. You got to look what this guy did and you can do it too. And this is what I'm eating. This is what I'm driving, but they don't talk to you about the failures because failure is as important to success as success itself, right? Ask an athlete how many times did they fail to make the shot, right? How many times did they fail to take advantage of an opportunity? Talk to business people. They failed, but it was through the failure that they learned. But if you're afraid of what others think, like I know people won't post certain things because they're afraid about what somebody else might think. That's just shame. You should be free to say what you want to say within reason, but you shouldn't be afraid to put an idea out there because you're afraid that people are just going to trounce on it, right? You can't be PC about everything, or you are just going to live like in a cave because you'll always be afraid of what somebody says, think. Somebody criticizes me about something, I think, great. At least you pay attention. There's a scene out of a movie. One of my favorite movies is Pirates of the Caribbean. And I always like watching, Johnny Depp, and I know he's got his stuff going on right now. But he came up to this guy that was at the English Trading Company, and he goes, "You have got to be the worst pirate I've ever heard of." And Johnny Depp turns to him and goes, "Yeah, but you've heard of me." Right? You've heard of me. So you can be heard of if you are out there taking risk, taking chances, and yes, you're going to fail. You're going to fail. 28 years old, I started my first business, the first business I had, and I made the mistake of inviting some wolves into my business because I thought I needed some older, wiser advice, and they end up devastating my business, and it failed, and it ended up going on my name and my record. And I thought about never starting a business again, and I'm glad that I didn't because I wouldn't be where I am today. But that's how it can get in your head. That failure sticks. I know people still talking about failures like 20 years ago. Yeah, I got a divorce and Bob left me. Like, what year was that? 1968. Really? You do know it's 2020. I was just saying. Right? But people, they still rehearse those failures. They still talk about what didn't go right. And as a result of that, they're not willing to take that risk again. But you got to learn from the farmer. There were years that farm crops didn't come in. If you study history and you study, especially in the South, they grew cotton. They had this thing called the boll weevil. And this boll weevil would literally come through and just devastate crops. It would just eat them all up. So the farmer had put in the labor, put in the time, sowed the seed, did everything right. And here comes this insect just destroying all of what they had worked for. No money that year, right? No harvest that year. Okay. What did the farmer do? Did the farmer sell the farm and say, okay, that's it, I'm done, right? No, next year, back at it again, right? So if you failed at something, you got to get up and go back at it again. You got to get back up and get back into the field and do it. There's a lot of people out there that have tried to launch technology platforms and software, and they haven't done well, right? I remember some of the earlier versions of Netscape, some of the different versions, different companies that, tried to make that early Napster, right? You guys remember Napster, things like that. So those were early adopters to technology, but they didn't last the length of technology for whatever reason, because, a greater technology came in or whatever came in front of them. And as a result, they were not able to sort of do that. But you got to be willing to fail. Elon Musk, which we all celebrate today, right? But when he started making electric cars, the name he got was Battery Boy. Yes, Battery Boy. He's trying to make a car out of battery. Nobody makes a car that drives strictly on batteries. That's just risky, and that's a danger to society, and that's never going to work. That's in writing. That's not me making it up. That's in writing. Well, today, Musk is on the verge of buying Twitter for $43 billion. That's not bad for a technology farmer, okay, who was called Battery Boy. So if you're afraid of what people think, it's hard to break that barrier. So I'm saying that you got to be willing to fail. You got to be willing to, sow something that's not going to come up. Try something that's maybe not going to work today, but might work again 5 years from now if you keep it and don't grow. So whatever you want to grow, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's 8 billion people on the planet, and everybody's got a different idea what they want to grow. Some people are very simple, and some people are very grand. So it doesn't really matter. You still got to apply the same principle, whether that's health, influence, income, business, opportunities, whatever it is that you want to grow. Failure is going to become part of that, but if you continue in it, you can also, I think, make a great leap to share your success, not just with yourself, not just with your family, but maybe you can share it with the world. One short story is that, I was having health issues several years ago, and I ended up going to my doctor by accident. Well, I grew up in a family that we didn't have doctors. We couldn't afford doctors. They would give you scope to put on something. I don't care. Kaopectate. I don't know. Whatever it was, grandmother had these weird remedies that she would give you, and that's what was your cure. Everything had like this cure. Put Windex on it, right? I don't care. Whatever it is. Simple home remedies, as we call them. Well, that really is not good for lasting health. And so my doctor had a hard time convincing me, hey, try some of these regenerative methods. Try some of these things that are new. I'm like, no, I'm cool. I'll just take an ibuprofen. Right. But I had to make a decision. Do I want to have health that I can go the distance and go deep into life and maybe do some great things for myself, my family, and people? Or do I want to just stay with what I knew about medical health, which wasn't a lot? But he persuaded me to take little baby steps. And now, I got health probably better than somebody half my age, right? I can get up in the morning, I'm ready to go. I don't have aches and pains and bursitis and arthritis. I don't have any of those things because I took the step to start changing. I was willing to fail at it in order to have the success. So same with you. You got to be thinking about, how do I take something, even if I failed at it, and maybe get a different perspective on it. Right, that's a great thing about the internet. Man, you can Google anything. You can YouTube anything. Every time I need to repair something on my car, first thing I go is, let's go to YouTube. See if somebody put a video up of how to change the light, right? There's so many resources out there for you to learn. Just look at the music industry, how it's evolved, where you used to have to go in a studio and make music. Now people can make music from home. They got all these different technology and equipment that they can just do right from their kitchen table. That's amazing to me, if you use it. If you don't use it and you don't deal with it, I know people that think the devil's still in the internet and they won't even go on it. You go on there, you're going to get the 360s on your head, right? So they're not taking advantage of some opportunities that are out there if they're willing to take that step. Are you willing to take the step? Are you willing to put past failures, setbacks, issues, things that maybe people said to you, when you were young? I used to hear a lot when I was young, you're dumb. You're not smart, right? The school would say I was smart, but my family didn't agree with that. And who did I listen to? Right? Years later, I would find out that I had 148 IQ. My mom was kind of embarrassed when she found out about that because she knows what she had said, and I suffer from that. Your esteem suffers and confidence suffers when people who you trust basically piss on your dream, piss on your idea. So that's the other lesson is, the farmer didn't invite the community out to help him sow his land, right? Or sow his crop. He did it on his own, him, his family, and his workers. That's who worked the land. They didn't ask everybody to come in and pitch in because everybody would have had 50 ideas on how the thing would have got done, and it probably would have never got done. Let me just tell you one thing that you'll take with you life. You can't run life by committee. Can't do it. Can't. I know we hear companies that have board of directors, but there's always a CEO, there's always a chairman, there's always a person at the end of the day. As Teddy Roosevelt said, the buck stops here. You can't have 50 people trying to tell you how to build a dream. It just won't work because they're going to have a different perspective on how you do it. So think about just some of those thoughts, and if you miss any part of it, you can go back and get it. The other thing too is when the farmer finally got the harvest, right? So they got everything, they got the apples, they got the oranges, they got the corn, whatever it was. You know what? They didn't spend a lot of time celebrating. They had a season of celebration after the harvest was done when you study that, but they were right back at work because they knew that the next season for sowing was coming right back around. So they would get their crop, take it to market, celebrate, store what they needed to store, and then they would be right back at it. Some of us celebrate too much, right? We make a little money and we are partying like rock stars. Okay? And all of a sudden now the money has run out and now you have lost your momentum of building your business or anything that you've been trying to do. It's great to celebrate success. Don't get me wrong. I'm number one in celebrating success, but there's a time and limit on celebrating the success, and you got to get back to the field. You got to get back to the work. You got to get back to growing it for the next season and the next season. I think that's one of the things that I think is a shame is people are so short-sighted that they really don't think much about tomorrow, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 from now. They think about today. What have you done for me lately? When you look at history and you study some of the European cultures, they would start building a building and it would take 100 years to build that building. So that means that the people that started to build that building, most of them didn't even live to finish that building or see that building complete, but yet they invested a portion of their lives in it for somebody else to enjoy. So a lot of the people that I mentioned, the Musk and Amazon, man, what they're building will be done, will keep going long after they're done. It's not centered around them, May rest in peace. Steve Jobs is gone, right? Apple lives on, right? The iPhone 55 is coming out next month, right? It lives on because what he did was beyond just his immediate, it was benefiting us for the future. I want those kind of people, right? I don't want those people that just eat it, drink it, and drive it, right? Because they have it. I want people that'll be able to store up a little bit or create enough that, my grandchildren can benefit from the ideas and the thoughts that they have sown and farmed for not just themselves, but for, a generation culture. So at the end of the day, we're all living in this new culture, this new society that's post-pandemic. We got war going on. We got gas is $55 a gallon. You should just take your check to Fred Meyer, just give him the check and ask him how much gas you can get these days. That's, it's where we are. Interest rates are going up. So you got these new things, but here's one thing. Time keeps on ticking. Time keeps going. So you can stop and you can preoccupy yourself with all that stuff if you want to, but time keeps going. It doesn't stop. It doesn't pause for the things that are going on. So you still got to work. You still got to dream. You still got to work. You still got to get up every day, right? The clock hits 7. You got to be on your way. Doesn't matter what's going on around the world. Now, we empathize with those kind of situations and we'll help with it and become a part of it. But at the end of the day, you still have the responsibility to get up and respond to the clock and go out and sow what you know and grow what you want to come out. Hey, this is Lewis Howard. Thank you for spending some time in a conversation with me. Remember, we are on YouTube, Lewis Howard Live, Inspirational Recipes for the Soul, Facebook Live. You can get us on IG, Twitter, and all those good places. I don't post that much on Twitter, but I want to try to get better at it. But you can get us. And like I said, we've had over just short of 80,000 people get it and download and share this. And you can do it in MP3, MP4. You can send links of the video over to people when we upload it and help somebody else. If you got it and you say, none of this applies to me, I'm cool. There's somebody that probably is struggling, probably needs a handout, a help, some sort of resource, and you don't know if something you do, you say, or you give might be the turning point in somebody's life. And before I close, there's a great story. Years ago, there was a homeless man. I can't remember what city it was, but it was a homeless guy, and a gentleman drove up to his car, and he was drove up, and the guy stopped at his car and asked him, he's asking for money. And the guy's habit was he would sing for the money. I'll sing a song for you if you give me $1, $2. And this guy sung this song, and the driver was shocked. He goes, "You have an amazing voice. Man, where'd you learn to sing like that?" He goes, "Oh, I've just been singing on and off in my life." And he goes, "Man, would you mind if I talk to some people about you? Because I know a few people." And the guy said, "Sure, man. I'm just out here on the street. It's where I be." Well, long story short, this guy became known as Ted the Golden Voice. Google it on YouTube. You'll find it. The guy had an amazing voice. Somebody took time to invest in this guy and help him get his life totally turned around. Now this guy's doing podcasts, he's doing motivational speaking, he's going everywhere, and he's affectionately known as Ted the Golden Voice. One guy out working what he thought was his land, and somebody else came along, saw it, gave him an opportunity, and now the guy has a life, at least if not at close to what he wanted to be. If Ted the Golden Voice can do it, you can too. Hey, this is another edition of Lewis Howard Live. We'll see you again, and helping you become the best version of yourself. Every great champion knows that success, overcoming, and winning in life is no accident. Creating individual success is like having a recipe for a great meal. It only works if you know how to use the ingredients. As a best-selling author, entrepreneur, business coach, strategist, and champion, the Lewis Howard Live Show provides you the insider's view on winning. All we do is win, 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 helping you become the best version of yourself.